The Lineage of Science, Isaac Newton, Norman Jones, and My Biomedical Journey Part 2, number 1650, May 20th, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, Category Life Reflection. Section 8, The Symbolic Meaning of the Cambridge Apple Tree. Eventually I mentally traced the lineage even further backward. My small contribution to biomedicine comes from the British mechanics tradition and education of Professor Norman Jones. Together with the British discoveries in physics of Isaac Newton, this includes one medical example, my stroke risk triggering sensitivity index TSI-Stroke, which uses multiplication instead of addition, a concept derived from Newton's law of motion, F equals mxa, not F equals m plus a. This TSI proxy shows how compounding stroke risk factors amplify each other nonlinearly, rather than just adding up linearly. At that point, the Cambridge apple tree photograph became emotionally symbolic to me about the lineage from Newton through Jones to me. I already knew historically that the original apple tree story belonged to Newton's hometown, not Trinity College itself. However, that no longer mattered very much to me. The story itself was what inspired me. Standing beside that symbolic tree at Trinity College represented something much deeper, the continuity of scientific ideas and knowledge across centuries. Newton established the foundations of mechanics and motion. Norman Jones extended dynamic mechanics into viscoplasticity and energy behavior. I later carried many of those same systems concepts into biomedicine, chronic disease progression, topology, BMT, and medicine, and survival science. The photograph therefore was not tourism. It became symbolic of scientific lineage and intellectual continuity. Section 9, Loneliness of Systems Thinking. In many ways, I believe I may be among the first, and perhaps the only researcher up to 2026, to apply dynamic plasticity, viscoplasticity, energy accumulation, nonlinear systems behavior, and topology-based thinking so extensively to pathophysiology, a soft branch of biomedical systems analysis. Thus far, I have written more than 1,000 medical research papers using these concepts. Most biomedical researchers traditionally come from biology, chemistry, physiology, or statistics. My own foundation came instead from mathematics, physics, mechanics, engineering, AI, and dynamic systems behavior. That difference fundamentally shaped how I viewed disease itself. To me, disease progression is not merely a collection of isolated biochemical events. It is a dynamic systems trajectory evolving over a long time, particularly chronic mortality diseases such as heart disease, kidney disease, stroke, dementia, and even certain cancers. This way of thinking also explains why I often felt intellectually lonely. I have experienced tremendous difficulty trying to convince others regarding my research methodology. Nevertheless, I firmly believe that eventually, my research results will speak for themselves. Fame and peer acceptance have never been my concerns. I have been used to loneliness. Medical science contains many highly intelligent people. However, the structure of modern medicine historically evolved around episodic clinical visits, fragmented specialties, and statistical averages. Even though trajectory analysis is intellectually understandable, the entire medical infrastructure was historically organized around isolated measurements and short-term observations. Personally, I always felt that those kinds of explanations were incomplete. From my viewpoint, trajectory-based thinking was already possible many years ago if people truly wanted to observe the full system behavior carefully enough. I did not have CGM devices in 2010. I used finger-stick glucose measurements manually. I repeatedly measured blood pressure manually. I also tracked food intake, exercise, sleep, body weight, and lifestyle variables continuously for 17 years. The issue was not only technology. The deeper issue was mindset, persistence, and strong confidence in data science and pattern analysis. Most people did not think longitudinally or dynamically. They also did not observe human health the way systems engineers observe coupled nonlinear systems evolving over long periods of time. That difference in thinking often created a feeling of intellectual isolation. Section 10, From Survival Science to Human Philosophy. Over time, I gradually lost interest in journal publication and conference recognition. My priorities slowly changed. I no longer cared very much whether institutions accepted my ideas and research results or not. My focus became survival, understanding, truth, and helping other patients if possible. In some emotional sense, I gradually began understanding a small part of the loneliness that pioneering thinkers may experience. Like Isaac Newton and Norman Jones, not because I compare myself directly to the two of them, but because I understand the emotional feeling of seeing structural relationships differently from the dominant framework surrounding me. After the stroke on June 21, 2025, these reflections became even deeper. The Cambridge photograph now feels almost symbolic to me. I was standing quietly beside the Newton tree shortly before walking extremely close to death myself. Another photograph taken beside Professor Jones in Liverpool during 2025 carried yet another layer of meaning regarding the scientific lineage connecting Newton, Jones, and myself together. The Cambridge and Liverpool photographs almost represented the two hemispheres of civilization: science and humanity, engineering and emotion, mathematics and suffering, mechanics and survival. Section 11: Buddhism, Human Existence, and Biomedical Reality. After the stroke, I gradually began integrating all these dimensions together: ancient philosophy, modern biomedical systems, personal survival experience, scientific discipline, and spiritual humility. In Buddhism, there are four unavoidable realities of human existence: birth, aging, sickness, and death. According to the ancient story, Prince Siddhartha awakened to the reality of human existence after observing an old person, a sick person, a dead person, and finally a spiritual seeker. Those observations led him to realize that all human beings inevitably face aging, illness, and death regardless of wealth, power, or social status. My own interpretation gradually connected the ancient philosophy with modern biomedical systems thinking. From my viewpoint, birth, aging, sickness, and death are not isolated events. They are continuously interconnected processes embedded throughout the entire trajectory of human life. This is also a systems engineering way of viewing humanity, not isolated snapshots, but one continuous interconnected dynamic process. Section 12: My personal survival journey. Human aging gradually weakens the biomedical system. Sickness represents accumulated imbalance and damage. Death represents the final system failure when stability and survival can no longer be maintained. In many ways, my entire biomedical research journey became an attempt to better understand these interconnected realities through mathematics, physics, engineering, medicine, AI, and continuous self-observation. During these 17 years, I spent nearly 82,000 hours studying medicine and biomedical systems after experiencing 9 severe diseases. Myself, looking back between 1994 and 2004, I suffered 5 heart attacks. In 2010, I was diagnosed with severe chronic conditions including kidney failure, neuropathy, and retinopathy that could eventually lead to amputation and blindness. However, over the following 17 years, my kidney function and heart condition remained within normal ranges without recurrent major mortality diseases. Then came the hemorrhagic stroke on June 21, 2025. That event proved another harsh reality. Living near the edge of the cliff for many years means that one misstep can still produce catastrophic consequences. At that moment, I stood extremely close to death itself. Yet I survived. The only true reward from this long journey is simple: I saved my own life, and perhaps my accumulated knowledge may someday help other patients as well. Section 13: Knowledge, Humility, and Spiritual Reflection. Over time, I gradually realized something important: knowledge alone is not enough without humility. That is why, although I rarely speak aggressively about religion, I quietly keep spiritual belief inside myself. I strongly believe that kindness should remain in our mind and heart, not merely spoken through our mouth. Today, when I look back at Newton, Norman Jones, engineering, AI, medicine, chronic disease, stroke survival, and my own biomedical journey, I no longer see them as isolated subjects. I see one continuous human trajectory: the search for hidden order behind suffering, instability, disease, survival, and human existence itself. Perhaps this entire journey can ultimately be summarized by one sentence: knowledge is the ultimate power, and God is our ultimate teacher. Epilogue: Guinea Plaza and the continuous movie of thought. Over time, I gradually realized that my own thinking process behaves much more like a continuous movie rather than isolated snapshots or slideshows. Tile images. My brain continuously connects systems, trajectories, memories, engineering concepts, biomedical observations, and philosophical reflections together at a speed much faster than I can physically type. In reality, my thinking speed is faster than my speaking speed. My speaking speed is faster than AI writing speed. And AI writing speed is still far faster than my own one-finger typing speed on a small iPhone. screen with aging eyesight. Therefore, the true bottleneck in my research work was never the generation of ideas itself, but rather the physical interface required to capture those ideas efficiently. This is why the recent audio-based No.1650 workflow became extremely important to me. Speaking naturally allows me to preserve the continuous trajectory of thought without constantly interrupting the flow of ideas, and then helps me to organize, structure, clean, and preserve those rapidly moving thoughts into readable writing while still maintaining my original direction and meaning. In many ways, this process also reflects my biomedical philosophy itself. Human biomedical systems behave dynamically, continuously, and longitudinally rather than as isolated static snapshots. Similarly, my own thinking process also behaves as a dynamic continuous system rather than fragmented, disconnected points. At present, I deeply appreciate both the strengths and weaknesses of modern commercial AI tools. AI is extremely powerful for language organization, grammar correction, structural assistance, rapid drafting, and preserving long streams of interconnected human thoughts. However, AI still remains much weaker in creativity, deep original conceptual reasoning, systems intuition, geometric topological understanding, and long-term accumulated human wisdom. Therefore, I now view the most effective future research model not as AI replacing human intelligence, but rather as No.1650 collaboration. Human natural intelligence provides creativity, intuition, life experience, systems understanding, and philosophical depth, while AI provides speed, organization, memory assistance, and language refinement. For me personally, this combined workflow has become one of the most important reasons I can continue producing large-scale biomedical systems research despite aging near age 80. Physical limitations, poor eyesight, stroke recovery, physical exhaustion, and the practical difficulties of manual typing on a small iPhone screen. In the end, modern technology did not replace my thinking. Instead, it finally allowed my continuously moving internal movie of thought to be captured before it disappeared. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.